Hi everyone, it's Terry from the Gypsy Magpie, and today I've got a project to share with you for the Graphics Fairy design team. I wanted to show you how easy it was to put together a junk journal using images from the premium membership site. I find myself going back there over and over whenever I'm working on a project. It's loaded with thousands of images and they're available to you just for being a member. The images are always right there, right at your fingertips, so it's a great resource, or sometimes just the spark you need when you're beginning a project. So what I've got today is a little journal that's celebrating all things fall. It's my favorite time of year, so I was excited to put something together using all these beautiful autumn images. I've also had a lot of questions about how I put together my folios. So if you can stick with me, after we take a walk through this one, I'll explain in a little bit more detail how I go about assembling a project like this. So let's see what we've got in here. This is all just tied together with a piece of yarn. And I started with, my cover has some metal letters. I just dyed them with alcohol ink. And I decided that I would go ahead and use this as my own journal for October, November of this year, maybe throw in a little September. I can add some photos of my own and a little bit of journaling, just kind of keep track of what happened this year during the fall. I like chunky books, so I like to put a lot of texture and movement in them, so anytime I can get trims tied in there, I'm quite happy with it. So it opens up and we've got this darling little bird pocket. This bird is actually from, oh gosh, I think it's the Fall Colors Ephemera bundle. And it's a PDF. You print it out. It looks like this when you print it. So you print it, you cut it out, go ahead and fold it, and I just tucked it in there. Got some black and white images in here along with color. A lot of times tags are fun to slip in. On this right now I've got a little bit of book print, but what I might do is just print out some tiny photos and put them on the back. I've also got a pocket underneath this. I had a friend that gave me a sample book of discontinued upholstery fabrics, so they were in some beautiful browns and rust and orange colors, so I used a couple of them in here. I've got quotes scattered throughout for the autumn. And I like the play of the black and white with color on this. I thought this was kind of a cool strip. It's from the Heritage Wallpaper bundle. And I like the look of that. I've pulled the images from bundles actually all across the premium membership site. Some of the bundles I've used today are Autumn Harvest, the Fall Botanicals, and the Fall Colors Ephemera. Woodland Walk, those were kind of obvious. Some others were the French Attic Ephemera. I used, like I said earlier, the Heritage Wallpaper. I've also got a little bit of masculine ephemera tucked in there, as well as a postcard or two. You don't really have to feel like you've got to stick with a specific bundle or even a specific theme. If you want to go ahead and just browse them, you might find exactly what you're looking for through in a bundle that, from its title, you don't think has anything to do with the subject you're looking for. So go ahead and open them up and scroll through them. It's a fun way to kind of shop. I do that all the time. This little guy here, this squirrel, is absolutely adorable. He is from the Fall Colors Ephemera bundle. I think he is the cutest thing ever. I've used him with a book cover and just a black and white image. I really like the play of the color with the black and whites. We've got a little bit more of that Heritage Wallpaper. I made this pumpkin seed package into a pocket. So for the pockets, I just used plain old shipping tags from the stationery store, did a little stamping on them. This one's got a quote on it. So again, I'll probably stick a couple tiny little photos on here, maybe a little bit of journaling. I like when you can just keep opening up and opening up and opening up, and there's always something new to look at. This was a lot of fun, this little tag book. I made the pocket out of some more of that upholstery fabric, and I slipped a little tag book in there because it was a way that I could get some more quotes in here. I thought this quote was absolutely beautiful, perfect for the autumn. The way I made the book was just with some of those plain old shipping tags. I inked the outside edge with some distress ink, flipped it over, and I glued my images on. I printed them different sizes. This one's a 5x7, and what I did was I just kind of checked out the image area, laid my tag right on top, and made sure that that was good. I went ahead and I cut out around it, and then I glued it onto the top. Once that was done, I scored a line. I think you can see it. I scored a line right there so that it would easily flip. I ran some ribbon through, and I glued a button right on top. So I've got these beautiful autumn colored ferns. I've got another image in here that truly has nothing to do with autumn, but the colors were really, really nice for this. This is another piece of the wallpaper, and it's printed full sheet. So the design is very, very large, and it's almost abstract looking at it in here. And this one was really pretty. I think this one is an antique book cover. The colors were great. So what this tag book did, it has given me a lot of space where I can go ahead and definitely put some photos and some journaling on that. And that just tucks right back in there. And this flips open. And I created a pocket with some lace. I like the look of that. There again is some ephemera in here, chosen strictly for the colors. I can't tell you what that's actually for. It's in French. This is an old chrysanthemum image that the Graphics Fairy has had on her website for years, and I've used this so many times. I've used it as place cards for my Thanksgiving table. It makes a beautiful note. This is actually blank, so you can write whatever you want. I went ahead and I had a stamp that said autumn, so I put that on there. I left the back blank. I'm going to go ahead and probably, again, put a photo. Just punch a hole in the top, put a little bit of seam binding in, and you've got a great tag. So we've got that there. This was a pretty full sheet design, and I went ahead and I printed 2 to my sheet so that it would fit on this page, and then I added a quote on there. People had asked how I do the quotes. I look everywhere for quotes, and when I find those I like, I scribble them down either in my phone, and when I have time, I jot them onto recipe cards, and I have a big ceramic tray in my studio that's full of quotes, and sometimes it's fun to just kind of leaf through and pull out a few that I might want to use on a project. It's a way to always have them at your fingertips. And this is another pocket here. I thought this was such an interesting design. It possibly is a garden design. I don't really know. It's just, I really like the geometric look of it. On the back, I backed it with some book prints, but I can still slap a photo on that. Again, punch the top, turn it into a tag, a little bit more of that ephemera. And this girl right here is a good example of what you can do with images. Keep in mind when you're creating from digital, you can make the image work for you. I don't let the image dictate to me what I'm going to do with it. If I need to alter it in some way, I go ahead and do it. I grab my scissors, make some adjustments. It's just a piece of paper. So if you don't like the way it's working once you've altered it, reprint it, crumple it up, throw it away. No one's going to know. No harm, no foul. So the original image, I thought she was darling. I like the green dress. I like her auburn hair. But if you notice, she's holding a seashell. I didn't really need a seashell for this project. So what I did was I fussy cut her. I cut all around her hair. I completely cut the ocean out because what I wanted to do was just lay her on the background. So I went ahead and did that, but I also cut the seashell out of her hand. And instead, I added some leaves. These leaves happen to match this image. They all came out of the same bundle. So I printed them in wallet size, and I was trying to use the entire bunch, but it didn't actually look right. So what I did was I printed them. I printed out 9 on a sheet, and I started cutting the leaves out individually. And what I was able to do is put them where I wanted to. So I tucked a couple in where that seashell was, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. I like how she looks. So we've got that. That closes up. This one opens back up. And it's rare that I have a project where some pom-pom trim does not appear. Love that stuff. I thought this owl, he is so handsome. He and the squirrel are both from the Fall Colors Ephemera bundle. And there was no way I was going to miss out on using him. He's quite handsome. So I've got an advertisement on there. Great colors for the fall. I've also got glued on here, I've got a gilded leaf skeleton. It's actually quite pretty. A little bit of it broke off when I was working with it, and instead of pulling it off, I thought, well, if you found it out in nature, it may not be a whole specimen. So I'm going to use it anyway. Under this girl, I made another pocket. On this shipping tag, I actually printed out and cut out this feather. It looks like it's just kind of floating there. And again, I kind of used the same 2 or 3 stamps and the same sepia ink through the whole book just for continuity. So, good place for photos, a little bit of journaling. And this quote kind of says it all. Oh, fall, it's nice to see you again. That's how I'm feeling right now. And that opens back up. We've got another beautiful owl. And this time I've paired him with some black and white. What I did when I glued him on was I only glued the top and I glued the bottom so that I could use him as a pocket of sorts. So I can actually slide things in and out. I've got another tag with a quote, blank on the back. And I used this really pretty tag. I think this one came out of one of the mini ephemera packs and another one of those leaf skeletons, and I just went ahead and stapled it on. The back has a little book print. Tuck that in there. And we've got a bunch of feathers here. Again, I cut out more of those feathers. Just tried to kind of make them look like they're floating. And that opens up to the center of the book. This was an entire sheet of paper from the scrapbook store, and I loved the wood, and I loved that it said farm and garden seeds, but it didn't have anything else on it except for this little bee. So for me, it was the perfect background here. I printed this out and went ahead and fussy cut. I love to fussy cut, and it worked out perfectly. You can see the wood through there. Put another quote on there. And this was a postcard. Postcards usually find their way into my projects. They're a great blank base that works for just about everything. So printed another, this might be from the Autumn Botanicals. Printed it out, fussy cut it. So this folds up like that. This is another strip from that Heritage wallpaper bundle. A little bit of ribbon. Actually, close that up. Put the owl on top. Close that up. Close that. And that's it. This paper was quite pretty. It was a printed scrapbook paper, and it was a big round wreath of sorts. And so that is the entire back of my book. So let me show you my big secret for how I make a junk journal or a folio. Big secret stuff. It's copy paper and some tape. It's super simple. The reason I use copy paper is I always have it. It's cheap. I can throw it away if I make a mistake. It's perfect for making a pattern. So this allows me to create a template before I begin cutting into my decorative papers. There's nothing worse than having a beautiful piece of paper or an image and you cut it only to realize it doesn't work the way that you want it to. I hate doing that, and rather than try and make it work in a way that wasn't what I'd planned, I would rather just make a little template for myself. So this way, if I don't like it, I can throw it away and I can grab another stack of copy paper and start all over again. Sometimes, actually more often than not, I have to do this many times before I get exactly what I'm looking for. So I start with some type of an idea in my head. I like folios that open from both sides, and I like when the pages can flip from either side. So this is a basic framework. If you notice, I've got a lot of space, air space in there, and that's because I know for myself I tend to work very thickly. I like to use trims. I like multiple layers of paper, and if I don't really leave myself a little bit of wiggle room there, very quickly my small little journals end up as something that will not close. It won't fold. It bends everything up. So I try and plan a little bit of play into a little bit of space to play with into my design. So, I mean, it's super simple. There's really no rhyme or reason. Like I said, I play with it. I fold it up. I take a look. If I don't like it, I throw it away and start all over again. But on this one, I know that I want it to be kind of chunky. I think I'm going to use this template for a Christmas journal, maybe a December daily. I haven't decided yet. And then again, it may not make it into anything for a while. I make my folds. I play around with the flaps and things like that. And then I get kind of serious and I give myself some score lines so I know where I'm going to score it. And then I get my ruler out and I start doing measurements. And what that does is it allows me to have a pretty good idea of the cardstock that I'm going to need. So what I do, I put folds. Sometimes I like pockets. This one's going to open up different ways. I thought this would be fun if it opened top and bottom and then closed back up. And if you get your template together like this and you want to pull some of the pages out, go ahead. No one knows. This is your own design. There's no right or wrong. And again, on this edge, I left a 1-inch spine and a 1-inch spine. So that, in my mind anyway, this should close up nicely with a ribbon closure. Or I might go ahead and use maybe a little a latch, a little hook and latch. I don't know. Kind of have to wait and see where it goes from here. But once I've got that done, then I go ahead and I use a heavier, not a super heavyweight, but a heavier cardstock. I don't use copy paper. It just doesn't have enough body. So I go ahead and I use a cardstock. I try and follow the template I've made, but then again, if you go ahead and score and cut and it's wrong, it's a piece of cardstock. Either pitch it and start with a new one, or go ahead and save it and maybe use it on the back of a tag just to kind of strengthen things up. But that's basically all I do. One of the things that I forget to do often in my templates is I forget about adding things like envelopes and library pockets or little flips and flaps. If you can, in your template design, attach them before you cover the structure with the decorative paper. That last layer of paper hides all the mechanics of how that piece moves. But if you decide you'd like to add one after the fact, don't worry about it. Go ahead and attach it anyway. You can always find something to disguise where it's attached. You can use a piece of paper, a postcard, or another image. And if you're wondering how I know that, it's because I make that mistake constantly. This bird is, this pocket is the perfect example of that. I realized after I had started the book, I hadn't accommodated for any of the library pockets. I had wanted to put quite a few more in here and couldn't actually fit them, but I really liked this robin. Well, I had already adhered this gingham print, so I figured anything that I laid down on there and glued on was going to show. So rather than have a heart attack over it, I went ahead, just glued it on. Yes, it would show. However, that's when I got the idea, well, there's nothing that says I can't put a pocket in a pocket in a pocket. So I started just with the strip of the upholstery fabric. And it was pretty, but it was plain. That's why I added the lace. Once I added the lace, I liked the look of it. Wasn't sure what I was going to do with it. Then once you start getting the little pieces of ephemera in here and there, and you add some tags, and you can always add a little bit of journaling on a piece of paper that's folded up, whatever you want. Once you do that, it's amazing how quickly your project starts to come alive. Really, when you're working on a project, what you may not think about is it's organic, it's alive. You go where the project takes you. Sometimes I've got an entire plan mapped out. I've got notes. I know exactly what images I'm going to use. I've got my printed papers. And the funny thing is, there are times none of those things make it into the final project. If you put something in and you don't love how it looks, go ahead and take it out. Again, no one knows but you. It's your own project. So I hope that gives you a little bit better understanding about how I put these folios together. If I can ever plan far enough in advance, maybe one of these days I'll actually make the folio while I'm filming, but no promises on that. Anyway, thank you so much for stopping by today and watching. Make sure you check back in with the Graphics Fairy next week to see what the other designers have created. There are some amazing ladies on that team. They're so talented, and their beautiful work never fails to inspire me. Thanks again. Have a great day.